All right, so I'll start out here with the first game, which is going to be Boston versus Minnesota. So my first initial instinct is that Jaylen Brown is actually going to end up sitting in this game. You know, that might not end up being true, but based off of the game total and the point spread, like 7.5 points, the Celtics are dogs in this game. Yes, Minnesota's good, I get that. But, you know, if Jaylen Brown were to be active in this game, I think it would be a little bit lower. We do have that he is truly questionable for this game with back spasms. And so, sure, if he were to sit like Derek White, would be someone that's a little bit appealing for his over PRA here of 27.5. And then also like Peyton Pritchard would also be someone that we would look at to have a better game than really what he's currently projected to get. Although his line is juiced up enough to the point where we don't necessarily need to get to this bet. But he does average 26.3 points with Jaylen Brown off the court. And we haven't projected for 32 minutes. That could end up being a little bit higher, closer to that per 36 average that we would want to be looking at. And then for what's worth, Anthony Simons as well, guys, his props line is at 13.5 points. I wouldn't mind the idea of betting on him to get over his points there as well. He does get the biggest bump in minutes with Jaylen Brown off the court, does average 25.4 points with Jaylen Brown off the court. Now, the issue with him is we don't necessarily know what the minutes are going to be. And then we go ahead here and take a peek at some of the Minnesota bets. I don't feel like we need to get to them, especially if the game is going to end up being more of that blowout. Now, I will say, like, I don't mind the idea of getting to like Rudy Gobert for over 11.5 rebounds, but that's not going to be a good prize picks or underdog prop bet. That'd be a better, more traditional sportsbook bet. And then we are getting another kind of interesting bet here with the game between Toronto versus Charlotte. So it is likely that LaMelo Ball is going to end up sitting. So naturally, you would think that players like Colin Sexton, Colin Knopel would end up getting additional run, which is something that I do expect to happen. But because LaMelo Ball is off the court, this game has an increased likelihood for it to be a blowout. Okay, 9-point spread, kind of a lower scoring game as well. And what's actually interesting is when we kind of look at the per 36 production for all the Charlotte Hornet players, their production actually all goes down with LaMelo Ball off the court. So it's kind of interesting here, guys. Like looking at the per 36 production for Colin Sexton, he does average 21.5 points per 36 with him off the court, which is actually a drop in his total production, about a drop of 1.8 points. Now, if he does end up getting 36 minutes, that's huge. We just don't typically see him get all that much run. Okay, I think we haven't projected for 23 minutes. He might end up getting that. He might end up getting a little bit more than that, but overall, not a great bet. Con as well, guys. Like, he is someone that you would expect to be able to get his overs here, but again, he is someone that doesn't actually benefit with LaMelo Ball off the court. Everyone actually gets a little bit worse, and so when we're looking at some of these Charlotte bets, it actually makes a lot of sense to chase some of the under bets that we were getting, like Colin Sexton, 53% chance for him to get under 1.5 3-pointers made. His per 36 production, three-pointer wise, is 1.4 3-pointers made on 4.7 3 balls attempted. Okay, so that ends up being a pretty good bet. We see his game log has consistently not been getting this over, and he does draw a difficult matchup in a low-scoring game with it being a potential blowout, so he might not get those minutes. So I do end up liking that bet a decent amount there for him. Now, logically speaking, you would think he would get the over, right? That's kind of the weird part about it. But overall, that's kind of it for the bets that we are getting in this game. Now, maybe someone like Jamal Sheed continues to get, some additional run with RJ Barrett off the court. He's someone that should be able to get minutes if this game ends up being a blowout. Now, the last game, guys, only 17 minutes in that game, 0 for 4. Really not a good game for him. Did get into a little bit of foul trouble early on in that game, and then really nothing much there from him. So for me, it really just seems like we don't necessarily need to go in on the rest of the bets that we are getting. I will say Brandon Ingram, guys, just be on the lookout, though, for his lines on Underdog in regards to his fantasy score. This has kind of been a sweet spot where they just haven't been able to get him correct on Underdog. And actually, between the two sites, we are typically gaining an edge with a lot of the Toronto Raptor players when it comes to fantasy score. Typically speaking, guys, Underdog does come out with their fantasy score lines about an hour after my video is posted here, so just be on the lookout for that. Then let's go ahead and get into another game, guys. We have the Bulls versus the Pacers. We're going to see the top prop bet on the board is going to be Pascal Siakam to get over 4.5 assists. This is a pretty interesting bet, just given the sense that the Pacers are actually pretty banged up. We do see his game log, not a pretty game log, but Andrew Nembhard is someone that could end up sitting, which would shift even more usage to Pascal Siakam. Just a very interesting bet, about a 53.5% chance for that to hit. We do see like the data all kind of likes it, other than his last 5-game average, which is concerning. Now, this game is projected to stay close, guys. It is a very high game total. And so if like it is a close game. He is going to get 36 plus minutes. Like you would kind of expect him to be able to get that over, but all in all, it does feel like a tight bet, a bet that we don't necessarily need to go out of our way to target. That being said, we do have Andrew Nembhard for over 6.5 assists. Again, if this game does stay close and it is this high scoring, I wouldn't mind that bet, but he is also someone that is currently questionable. So not exactly someone we need to go out of our way to target. Now, Mathurin has been someone that, we've been betting on a decent amount, and now his prop lines are kind of bumped up now. Okay, so he kind of feels like a stay away in regards to how he's currently being valued, and really all the bets that we were getting for the Pacers all feel basically correct. I don't feel like we need to go out of our way to target them. And then also that's going to be the same case for the Bulls. Like I think we could end up maybe game stacking this game. Mateus, I don't mind getting to his over rebounds and assists here of 5.5. Again, in a game stack, it makes sense. High scoring game, close game. That's a way to get exposure to this game. There's not any like directly mispriced plays at all in this game. Okay. Like even Josh Giddey here over 17.5 rebounds and assists. Typically not a bet that I love to target, but like, again, if we're doing a game stack, we do have some opportunities here, but overall it does feel like we're forcing some of the bets in there. I do want to call that if Andrew Nembhard does end up sitting, that should just give Ben Shepherd a little bit more run in this game. But again, I don't feel like we need to go in on that spot too much. So we'll jump on into the next game, which will do the Bulls versus the Bucks here. Sorry, the Nets versus the Bucks. I'm kind of expecting Giannis to play in this game. We'll see if that ends up happening or not. Guys, he is currently questionable. This is the back end of a back-to-back. Yesterday was his first day back from being out. They are pretty heavy favorites in this game, 11-point favorites in this game, which tells me two things. One, Giannis might be active in this game, but two, Michael Porter Jr. is currently questionable, could end up sitting as well. He had back spasms, and so I think the expectation is going to be that he does end up sitting. And so if Giannis were to, guys, sit, Bobby Portis for over 9.5 points would end up being a great bet. We do see that in the last game, had his minutes limited. He is someone that would probably get closer to 27 or so minutes if Giannis were to be inactive. So kind of an interesting spot here where if you want to bet on his over, assuming Giannis sits, you could do that. But again, I don't think that's necessarily a lock. You could get to Ryan Rollins for over his fantasy score as well. This is very interesting of a line to me, guys. He's had one bad game recently. He's someone that would get a bump if Giannis were off the court. Sure, it's a low total game. We don't like that. But it is 11.5 point spread or so in favor of the Bucks winning, and this is a spot where we have Ryan Rollins coming in off of honestly kind of a poor game last night against the Brooklyn Nets, and he was still able to have a productive day prize picks wise for sure with his blocks and steals. And so you kind of would expect him to shoot the basketball a little bit better tonight coming in off of a poor night shooting. So I actually like the over fantasy score. I hate the fact that it has a 51.4% chance for the under to hit. And so this is a bet where I'm going to be looking for to see if underdog gives us a little bit of a better line there, maybe 33, 32.5. Obviously, I'd like that much better there. I do think Giannis, if he does end up playing, he should be able to get over 10.5 rebounds here. And then let's go ahead and flip into the Brooklyn Nets. So this is not necessarily a massive edge, I think, that we're getting, but it is enough to call out. Noah Clowney to get over 16.5 points, guys. He was able to have a good game in the previous game, guys, although only 16 points in that game, still not terrible there. We see his last 3 games prior to that, pretty darn appealing. Now, part of this is the appeal of him is going to be that Michael Porter Jr. is off the court, guys. So his per 36 production with Michael Porter and Cam Thomas off the court is 20.1 points. We haven't projected for 31 minutes, so not terrible there. If you want to get to his over fantasy score instead, you could as well. He's been able to get that more consistently over the last 4 games, which is obviously something that we like to see. His per 36 production there is closer to about 32.6 fantasy points. So really not terrible there as well for him. Then let's go ahead and get into Denver versus Phoenix. Okay, so Denver is still going to be pretty banged up here, guys. They still have Strother out. Aaron Gordon is still out, and Braun is still out as well. And so with that, the player that I actually end up liking the most here today is going to be Peyton Watson. I like his over PRA. That's the only bet where for prize picks we're really being told to bet the over. Only a 50.5% chance for this to hit. If you guys are someone that's betting on other sports books, I do like this spot as well. We look at his last 5 games, and that's really what we should be paying attention to, which is where, a lot of these same players have been out. His per 36 production with those players off the court is pretty darn appealing when we look at it as well. Now, we only have him projected for 28 minutes, but still, you guys will get the point. He averages 14.8 points, 7.2 2.2 rebounds and does add on 2.6 assists. And so I was looking at, do I want to do his over points and rebounds or his points and assists? I do think he has a good chance to end up getting at least one assist. And so I might as well just go with his over PRA here as well. So that's another bet that I think we are going to be looking at a decent amount on this slate. Now from there isn't that much here in this game that I necessarily like. Maybe Bruce Brown has a good game. His lines are a little bit too low. I don't necessarily like that. Dylan Brooks, I mean, he is shooting the basketball a bunch. This is actually a close game. If you want to kind of bet on that part of this game staying close still, you could end up doing that. It's not a terrible route to go. We know he's actually someone that's shooting the basketball a lot more than he probably should. Not a terrible spot if you guys like that, but overall, I don't feel like we necessarily need to get to that as well. So let's go ahead and jump on into another game. And just real quickly, guys, Pelicans versus the Warriors. Not much here that I like. There's one bet that I think is worthwhile. Other than that, not too much. And the only bet that I like here is going to be Bey to get over his points, really just trying to ride the hot hand here. They are kind of banged up. Herbert Jones is out, and that should really impact the minutes for Bey to kind of secure them in. Okay, we haven't projected for 37 minutes. That could end up being a little bit too high with the Pelicans. We are always worried about them getting blown out. This is an 8.5 point spread, not the highest scoring game as well. But I do like the fact that the over has about a 52% chance to hit. And if he does end up getting this many minutes, he should be able to get that over. So that's really the only bet that I like there. Then we'll go ahead and jump on into the Pistons versus the Heat. This is truly a spot where I don't really like any of the bets that we're getting to today. And so I'm mostly just passing up on these. Worth calling out Tyler Hero's lines here. 4 is over 4.5 rebounds. I think a lot of people are going to chase this. I don't hate it, but I don't necessarily feel like we need to go out of our way to target. I will put it in the bet slip to like make it a 6 slip bet just as an FY, but it's just not much there for me. And so we go ahead and get into probably the most appealing game to me, which is going to be this Mavericks versus Clippers game. So let's start with calling out kind of the game total. It is a lower scoring game, and it is a potential blowout as well. That's kind of the theme of today. There's a lot of games that could end up being blowouts, which obviously lead to a little bit more variance than we would like. But this is an appealing game. So the Clippers being 7.5 point favorites is certainly interesting. They're 5-14, right? Going against the Mavericks, who are 5-15. The Mavericks, however, are going to be without Derek Lively, Anthony Davis, and then Kyrie is still out. And so, like, Cooper Flagg to continue to play well is not like a terrible bet to go with. I don't know if I necessarily need to get to this bet. He does average about 10.2 rebounds and assists per 36 with these two players off the court. So to me, this bet seems pretty good. Now, the players that we're actually getting some pretty good edges on are PJ Washington and also Max Christie. So PJ Washington, I think for over his fantasy scores, a bet that I could end up getting to. He has been able to crush this consistently, and I really don't get that line. A bet that I had earlier that I think is going to continue to get bumped up was PJ Washington. 423.5 points and rebounds. This just seems like too good, honestly. His per 36 production with Anthony Davis off the court is 19.1 points, 9.5 rebounds, and he also adds on 2.6 assists. And so this should be probably at 25, honestly, especially assuming that he does end up getting to about 32 minutes. But I think we can end up just getting to his fantasy score if this does end up getting bumped up. So I do like that. And then Max Christie here as well, guys. Max Christie, his points seems to be a little bit too low. Okay, about a 51.4% chance for this to hit. He does average 15.4 points per 36 with Anthony Davis off the court. He is someone that does get a big bump in his usage with those players off the court as well. So really not a terrible spot here. But again, the concern is going to be maybe the potential blowout risk here as well. And then real quickly, guys, we'll pop up in some of these demon bets. Just seeing, obviously none of these are ever going to be considered good bets with how PrizePicks does it, but it is worth calling out. So let's just take a peek and see if we're getting any worthwhile bets. We'll keep in great bet, ideal bet, and best bets here. Those are going to be bets that somewhat check the boxes. And as you guys can see, yeah, no, we're not. And so to me, we're just going to stay away from those in general here. Not worthwhile there today. All right, so we go ahead and get to the bet of the day here for today, guys. Gonna just recap those 6 bets I just gave you guys. If I had to really dial it in, though, on like 3 bets that I like the most, it probably would be these 3 the most right now. I would say these edges aren't as big as I would typically like. I think they're smaller edges. I think this makes for, honestly, a better, more traditional sportsbook day. That's kind of the theme in the NBA until we start getting the like underdog fantasy scorelines where we truly know how to attack it. Like yesterday, we went 4 for 6, which is pretty darn good. I mean, that's kind of been the hit rates, but that's kind of my expectation for today as well with this specific slip. I think we're getting some pretty good edges. But all in all, I probably will be attacking it a little bit more once we do get those underdog fantasy score lines so we can attack the prize picks and underdog lines there as well. But if you guys are some of that bets on traditional sports books, these end up being some pretty solid edges here as well. Now that's going to do it for this video, guys. I appreciate you being here. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Head on over to 9to5sports.com as well to get access to all the tools available on the website. You guys saw the NBA prize picks optimizer. We got plenty of other tools as well, all for a low monthly cost of that $10 a month. Every tool is included in there. So thank you guys for watching. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.